I'm talking to Jeff Leslie, who is one of the most important people in the Baptist Union of Victoria, and
Who lives in Yea.
who lives in Yea and specialises in rural ministry. What brought you to rural ministry?
I went to Kundrook Barron Baptist, which was a very rural parish, and I thought, I know nothing about this culture. I'm going to come here as a missionary. I'm going to assume nothing and try and learn from these people, learn their language, their interests, their culture. And I set myself the task of cross-cultural, contextual missiology.
So you treated it as a mission field? Because you were brought up in Essendon, is that right?
Yeah.
Essendon.
Pascoe Vale.
Pascoe Vale. Who do you barrack for?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Melbourne.
I'm a sad person.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the last Melbourne supporter in Victoria. Oh, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Now, what sermon have you got for us? What's your first one?
I thought I'd talk about my sermon on pierced ears.
Pierced ears. Okay. Where is the passage found?
Deuteronomy 15, the bond slave.
The bond slave?
Yeah. So you want me to summarise it?
Yeah, give me the big idea. First of all, what if you could summarise this sermon into less than one sentence, what would you say?
The point of the sermon, finally, was to speak to people's hearts about the joy of being a bondslave of God, out of love, not out of duty, not out of anything else. But to get there, I addressed the quirky, common cultural phenomenon of piercings. And in Seymour, where I work, everybody gets pierced and tattooed, and and people don't know whether this is good or bad. So I try to give them a different way of looking at it. That actually it's powerful.
Tattoos are making a big comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I showed them pictures
Yep.
like this
Okay.
of tattoos.
Okay. That guy shouldn't ever go swimming.
Certainly not.
So what was the big question that you were answering?
The initial question is, what is the meaning of pierced ears, I suppose? And people take them as a fashion thing, it's crazy, but it's one of those things that make you stand out because you're like everybody else, And I was trying to give them a fresh way of looking at that. So the big question is, I was trying to undermine the idea of beauty and fashion. I'm trying to say, well, you think it means that, but actually, its real meaning is this. How wonderful is that?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know. The big question is, what does it mean?
What does it mean
Yeah, what does pierced?
to have
piercings
pierced
mean?
ears? Okay. So give me your outline,
Okay. Well,
because that will answer the question.
in the Deuteronomy passage, it talks about if you have a slave, you must set them free after 6 years. It says, but if your slave loves you and your family has a good life with you, and you and your family and has a good life with you, he might say, I don't want to leave. He says, then you take an awl, you pierce his ear, and he stays with you forever as a loving part of the family, continuing to serve. And then I found that in Psalm 40, the psalmist says, I've learnt this about you, God. You don't want sacrifices. You don't want pious living. You want someone who has a pierced ear. He says, so here I am. Take my body and I will serve you.
Okay.
And then Paul seems to take that up when he says, I am Paul, the willing bondslave of Christ. So I looked at the idea of the bondslave and suggested that God doesn't treat us as slaves, even though he wants us to come to him, but because we come in love, he actually treats us as his friends. So get your ears pierced. And then, just for a punchline to finish off with, I said, to get a scar that shows your love for someone, someone's already done that. They've got scars in their hand, permanent, to show how much they love us.
Okay.
So symbolically, the idea of getting a piercing to show how much you love God is the same thing. It's our response.
So how did you conclude this?
I said, be a willing bondslave for Christ. Commit yourself to Christ out of love. But think of yourself as God's servant to do whatever God wants in this world.
Don't serve God unless you love him.
Yeah. You make it about love. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. And your key word?
Bond slave.
Bond slave.
Because it's not slave, it's
Mhm.
a loving,
Okay.
willing slave.
Who was it who said, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life?
Good quote. I should have used that.
You can. I pinched it off somebody. Laurie, the swimming coach, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right, thanks for that.